Kimberly Moeller. I am the Instructional Services Librarian here at MU Ellis, and I also am the Social Sciences Librarian. So I work with a lot of departments like social work, women and gender studies, psychology, library science, and a few other smaller ones as well.
And I'm Federico Martinez, but you can just call me Freddy. It's a lot easier. I'm the head of Access Services, so I supervise circulation, shelving, and interlibrary loan.
Before we get started, before I talk about anything else, I want to highlight underneath on the web page, underneath quick links, there's this Contact Us link. And if this is the only thing you remember today, I really emphasize remembering Contact Us. If you have questions about anything we cover during this session, if you have questions about how to access something that we clicked through really quickly and you didn't see where we clicked, or if we didn't cover something and you still have questions about it, this is where you would go to get those questions answered. We have a number of ways that you can contact the library through phone, email, our chat service, which recently became 24 hours, so that's kind of exciting for us. And then there's something called a Research Assistance Program. We nicknamed it a RAP. Maybe not that clever of an acronym. But it's a one-on-one meeting with a librarian who is in your specialty. And to point that out, I want to go up to this yellow tab at the top for subject librarians. Each discipline that's taught at the university has a librarian associated with that discipline. So if you were interested, for example, in public health, you would scroll down to the P's, you would see what the name was, and then you would find out how to contact them by phone or by email. So if you ever wanted to set up a one-on-one session, you could do so. We do these meetings both in person and online through Blackboard, through Canvas, and through Skype. So even if you're a distance learning student or you're not on campus that day and it's not convenient to come in, we'll still happily meet with you and go over whatever research needs you have. So definitely remember that you do have a subject librarian and that Contact Us link is meant to be used. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Freddie now to talk a bit about Access Services.
And I just wanted to add to what Kim just said. The Contact Us also gives you information if you are having any type of questions about my department. There is a circulation, anything about shelving or interlibrary loan. You just go here to Contacts. And then right here on this side, you can see that we have different departments, and we have also the emails, so all the phone numbers as well. So just in case you have other type of questions instead of just research questions. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about what is it that we offer here in the libraries for all of you. And we have this really great service that is called Course Reserves. A lot of your classes, you're going to have items that are being placed on reserve from your professors. And those are for your classes. And anybody can come and check them out, but there's a restriction of how many hours you can check them out for. And so you can go in here, you can read about it, and also you can search for your class in it as well if you want to. So you just go here to this link to search for Electronic Reserves courses. And then here, you're just going to be entering either, you can look at all the classes that we have. You can search by the instructor, semester, or the subject. These items are going to be in every library. And you just go to the circulation desk, and you can ask for those items. And this also include the print reserves that are those are books, and we also have electronic reserves. So we also have in circulation, so you can also come to the library. You can find a lot of resources here, print resources. And so you can either go here, you have the discovery. This includes everything that is going to be related to the subject that you're going to be entering in this box. And that is going to be including articles, books, or any other type of material that is going to be containing that type of information that you enter into this search box. But you can also go here if you just want to go specifically into books and media. Also, one of the things that I have that we have here that we provide, it is the, one second, this information right here, that is the borrower request or renew your items, because you know you don't have to be bringing all the items here if you want to renew them. You can actually do that online, and this provides a lot of information about that. If you are wondering what type of borrowing privileges you have, you can, the borrowing.
Are you talking about for graduate students versus undergrad?
Yeah.
Okay. Under services for.
Oh, other services for, you can find the information for your specific status here at the university, and that is going to be giving you the information of what type of borrowing you have, privileges you have here in the university, in the libraries. We also have the non-traditional type of items that you can check out from the libraries. So we have a lot of equipment. You know, everything is changing nowadays. In the libraries, we have to keep on finding ways to continue being relevant to all of our users. So we have added a lot of equipment that you can have, you can come to the libraries and you can check out. These items, they also have some type of borrowing time that you can check them out for. But if they are available and they're here, you can just come and check them out and use them for your classes. And also, besides all of this amazing things that we have in the libraries, we also offer, we have a computer area here in the libraries that you can come and you can use. And we just added a self-checkout machine here as well for circulation. So if you don't want to be waiting in line when you are checking out items, you can actually just go to this machine and check them out yourself. You don't have to be waiting in line. We also have a 3D printer. If you have any type of already designed that you want to be printing in 3D, you can submit your order, and then we're gonna be putting that in there, and you can come and pick them out at the circulation desk. There is a fee for that, and then we also have a plotter printer, and we also have a scanner that is called a Kick scanner. Then, if you still come to the library and you don't find what you're looking for, we have this other service that is called interlibrary loan. So don't think that because we don't have an item that is available right here in this library that there is going to be no way for you to get it unless you go and buy it. Before doing that, try to use interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan, it is one of those free services for all the faculty, staff, and students that we collect all those requests, and we can be requesting those items from any library around the world, not just in the state, not just in the country, but also outside of the country, overseas, wherever we find it. If it is possible to get that, to bring it here for you, we're gonna be doing that. And then also because there is sometimes that our life now is getting into, we have a lot of things that we need to be doing right away, that we don't have time to go here and there and everywhere. We also offer now this service that is called a scan and deliver. So if we have a book here in our collection that is available, and you are planning on driving here from the city or from anywhere, and you want to make sure that that item is here for you, you can actually request that item to be pulled from the stacks and be on hold for you for 7 days. Also, now you can be requesting photocopies of articles the same way. So you can be placing requests, and all this right here, this page gives you all that information. And we're going to be scanning the article that you're requesting if it is found here in-house, and then we're going to be sending that to you to your email via PDF. And that is all I have now. It's going to be passing it to Kim.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate Freddie coming and talking about access services. I'm going to be talking about how to search and find the information before you access it, but they're interlinked. You can't find an item and then not be able to access it. They both work together. So usually the first thing that we recommend doing is searching in this gray box in the middle of the page. It's called Discover at MU. And it finds a little bit of everything. It's not going to be terribly subject specific. So if you're looking for a little bit more detail on your graduate studies, there are more in-depth places to go, and we'll get to that later. But this is a really good starting point. You'll find books, you'll find articles, you'll find newspapers, you'll find DVDs. You're going to find a little bit of everything. So I'm going to use an example really quick. I'm going to look up chocolate and health. You can probably see that I've done this search before, because I like justifying why I eat so much chocolate. And I'm going to run that search. And it's going to take me into what we know as a discovery tool. That's fancy librarian talk. It basically just means it's a search. It's the library's version of Google. So like I said, it's going to find a little bit of everything. And you'll notice there's an overwhelming number of results. No one wants to go through over 1 million results, just like you don't want to look at all the Google results that you get back. But it does have a couple neat ways to make this more manageable. The first is on the left-hand side. There's this limit to option. Right now you can see it's limited to only MU collections, so if you want things that are immediately available, leave that check on. If you're a graduate student and you're working on a dissertation or thesis and you're doing a little bit more in-depth work, you might want to expand beyond the MU collections. We have a lot, and we don't have everything. I do often want to point out, though, the academic peer-reviewed journal. This is going to cut out books, so if you're only looking for articles, this is a good way to make sure that you're getting kind of the higher tier standard of articles. It doesn't mean it's the only good material out there, it's just an option, but you are going to have professors where this is a requirement for the papers you write. So many times in an assignment description, they'll say you have to have maybe 5 peer-reviewed articles. This is the checkbox that would limit to only those peer-reviewed articles. So you would limit it that way. You can also limit by date. You'll see there's that slide bar there. Right now, apparently people were writing articles about chocolate and health, and they've been digitized back since 1843. That's quite a while. But maybe I'm only looking at the most recent data because information does change over time. I recently came across an article that said, it was from the 1960s, and it said smoking while you were pregnant was healthy. Clearly we know now that's not true, so information does change. And again, look at your assignment description. Many professors are going to tell you 5 years, 10 years is the limit. Obviously that does change based on what you're studying. If you are studying the history of how smoking was perceived during pregnancy, you'll want much older materials. But this is just an idea for how you can limit things down. And you'll see we went from over 1 million to about 37,000. Still too many, but there are a lot of further additional options to narrow things down. I'm not going to get into all of those right now, but please do come back and play around with this search or with any search later. I want to point out a couple things. Some of the articles have this button that says PDF full text. That one I think is pretty self-explanatory. You click on the PDF full text, the article will open up, you can save it, you can print it, you can annotate it and do whatever else you want with it. Some of them, though, have this Find It at MU button. That Find It at MU button doesn't mean that it's unavailable. You still have access to this because remember, we're searching the MU collections. This is still something you have access to. The main difference is that this Discover search we're running, we bought it from a certain vendor. And that vendor also sold us this article. It didn't sell us this article, so it wants to make the one it sold us look prettier. That's really the only difference. So if you click the Find It at MU icon, it's just going to redirect you to where that article lives. In this particular case, it's a journal that is purchased through Science Direct. So again, that particular detail isn't terribly important, but know if you see that Find It at MU button, you often can still access the article. Especially if we're limited to MU collections. If you took off this select button and we were looking outside MU, say you're looking throughout the world, and there's one you don't have access to, the screen will show you these big letters that say this item isn't available at MU. But right below that bold text, there'll be a link that says request this item. And that goes into what Freddie talked about earlier, the interlibrary loan. If you request an item, our library just asks another library to borrow it. They say sure, and they'll send it electronically. Since the world is running with electronic journals right now, it's a very quick process. Usually it's a series of emails. They email the article to your inbox, and I've known people who've gotten it within the hour. Typically, I say give it a couple days, but it's usually a much faster turnaround than we expect it to be. So do know that's an option. If you go into one of these article records, so if I click on the title, it's going to give you a lot more information. There's an abstract, so a little bit of a summary, what the article is about. And on the right side here is a toolbar that I want to highlight. My favorite of these is the Cite button. If you click Cite, it's going to give you a list of citation formats. So for example, I'm a psychology librarian, so I use APA a lot. And here's the APA citation. It makes doing bibliographies much easier. And I, for one, don't really like writing bibliographies, so I love this tool. But it still means you're doing them individually. There is also an option to export. If you hit export, it exports the citation into what is called a citation management tool. We're not going to get into that in this workshop. There will be another workshop, a series of workshops actually, on citation management tools. But I think it's important to know that the University of Missouri does have 3 different options. There's EndNote, Mendeley, and Zotero. And the benefit of learning these, and plugging another workshop here, the benefit of learning these is they create your bibliography for you, and they keep track of all the articles you've looked at. So you can export all these articles into your management tool, and then you can go in, pick and choose the articles you want, and click a button, and it creates the entire bibliography in whatever format you want it to be in with one click of a button, without you having to type it all up. And then if you decide, you know what, I was wrong. I didn't need APA for this submission. I needed MLA, or I needed a different citation. You just click the button again, and you change it to the citation format that you do need. So it makes it very easy to keep track of. This is especially important if you're doing, say, a dissertation or thesis, where you're going to have lots and lots and lots of articles. You don't want to be writing up the citation for every single one of those and trying to keep track of if you've already written one or if you haven't. Another thing I want to point out is permalink. The URL that's up at the top of the page, I'm highlighting it, will not work if you send it to yourself. It's based to that specific time you've logged in. So if you send it to yourself in an email, it's not going to work later. So you could do a whole bunch of research, send yourself a bunch of links, and then none of them will work, and it would be very frustrating. The permalink is the way to get around that. It creates a URL in the middle of the page that is reusable. So you can send that to yourself, to someone you're doing a group project with, to a professor if they ask for where you got your information from. So permalink's a good one to know. There's also an email option. This is really up to you. The email option sends each article individually to your email. With permalink, you can add a whole bunch of links in one email. So really, again, that's personal preference. Okay, any questions about that before we move on? Nope. Okay. Then I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. I didn't mention this earlier, and I should have. It's library.missouri.edu. This is where pretty much everything for the library exists. MU Libraries into Google will also bring you to this page, so you don't have to memorize that. And we just ran a search in this gray box in the middle. Now, I've mentioned before that there are more specific ways of searching. And the way that I want to point out now is under Looking For, there's a link called a database. Databases are where we find articles for the most part. And there is a tab under databases to find them by subject. This is the way that I think will be most valuable for anyone who is doing specific research, is looking at databases by subject, because the library has, I think it's something like 440 databases or over that, and no one, including the librarians, has memorized what all those databases are. None of us know all of them, because you don't have to. You really only need to know how to access the ones that are relevant to what you're studying. So, I believe someone said that they were doing public health. That could be found in a number of places. I just want to point out that you shouldn't exclusively use one topic. So for example, health and chocolate, the search that I was running with. I could be looking under medical and health. I could be looking under nutrition. There are lots of different things that I could put this under. I could look under education to see what schools are saying about eating chocolate as kids. How does chocolate and sugar affect children's education and their ability to learn? All of these, they're kind of all over the place. I'm going to pick one, education, just to show you what it looks like. When you go into one of these subject database lists, it's going to pull you into a guide for that whole subject. So a lot of the information you need to know about this topic is compiled in one place. So you'll see I'm on the yellow tab for articles. It's telling me, okay, Eric might be the #1 place that I want to look for education articles. Education full text might be #2. I've got a lot of options. It's not just one place to look. They're all going to work semi-similarly, though. They'll all have PDF options. They'll have those Find It at MU buttons. But you'll notice in this guide, there are lots of other yellow tabs across the top. Side note, librarians are not web designers, so I apologize for that. Our web pages can be a little bit confusing. The yellow tabs are how you navigate around our web pages. So you can see that there's statistics, there's articles, you can find information about getting licensed, about writing dissertations. For those of you that are graduate students, there's a fair amount in this guide. So find the one that's related to your subject area, click around a bit, and see what might be most useful for you. All right, I'm going to move on from there. Back to the library homepage. I know we're clicking around a lot, so I'm going to keep going back and highlighting what we've talked about, and at the end I'm going to show you a trick how to find those things again without memorizing where all these links are, because again, not a web designer, so it does tend to be all over the place. We've looked at this gray box that's a little bit comprehensive. We've looked at the database link that's specifically for articles. Now we're going to take a look at this catalog specifically for books. There is a yellow tab for books and media. Freddie mentioned it a little bit earlier, and that is a good place to go if you have an idea what you're looking for. If you know the title already, this can be really useful. If you have no idea what you're looking for, I highly recommend instead going down to the classic catalog, Merlin. So that's the link I'm going to redirect you now. And the catalog has a couple options. You can look by subject, you can look by title, if you do know the title, or by author, if you know the author. I personally am a fan of the advanced search, again with those yellow tabs everywhere. So the advanced search lets you put in multiple terms. So if you know, okay, well, I'm interested in chocolate and health, I'm going to put chocolate on one line and health on the other. If I put chocolate and health on the same line, it will still find things, but it's going to start looking for that as a phrase together. It's going to be looking for chocolate and health as 3 words in a row. Our databases and catalog work a little bit differently on this. Separating them out sometimes just seems to work a little bit better. The main difference between a catalog and a database is in the database, you run the search, and then you get all those boxes you can check to limit. In a catalog, you have to do that first. So instead of hitting submit and then trying to narrow down my search, I'm going to scroll down to my limiters and narrow it down first. You can limit by library. I want to point this out. There are 9 libraries on the University of Missouri's campus, and that number is kind of flexible because some of the libraries, like Ellis, for example, have multiple collections within them. There's special collections, there's the main collection, there's government documents. So again, that's kind of flexible. But you'll see scrolling down this list, there are a lot of different buildings that you could be going to. I want to point this out because if you're specifically looking to be in one building, you want to highlight that location. Date range, the within is actually for dates. I know that's kind of complicated. It doesn't say dates, but that's what that is. And then you have the option of material type. If you're a distance learning student and you only want ebooks because that's the format you can access today, as opposed to waiting for it to be shipped to you, you can limit to ebooks. We have a lot of other materials that I think most people don't necessarily associate with a library. We do check out DVDs. We have a pretty extensive DVD collection. We have a lot of equipment that Freddie talked about earlier. That's also found in the catalog. So if you wanted to see, gee, does the library have phone chargers? You can look in the catalog. I'm going to leave it open-ended for now, anything on chocolate and health, but know those limiters are there. So hit submit. And you'll see there's a fair amount that comes up. that is apparently not really about my topic. Maybe it is a keyword rather. There we go. Okay. So you'll see when I split it up, it actually didn't work out as well. So I had to go back and change it. That was not intentional, but I think it's actually something good to demonstrate. There's no right or wrong way to search. If something doesn't work, just go back and change it, and then it might work and it might not, and you might have to try several different things. And if you have trouble figuring out which thing is the best way to find what you're looking for, ask a librarian. So you'll notice that these records each have a location. And I pointed out before that there are different libraries, so again, make sure you're going to the right one. This one's in the Health Sciences Library. This one's online. The online books will have that little red E that lets you know it's an ebook, so you'll know you can access that one online. This one is in Ellis, which happens to be the building this presentation is being given in. But you'll see that it's got a lot of other information as well. The status, whether it's checked out or not. This one's not, so we could actually get it if we wanted to. And then the call number. This call number is based on the subject. So the neat thing about our library is it is cataloged by subject. So if you find one book on your topic and you go to the shelf where it is, the books next to it are going to be about the same thing. That's pretty useful. You don't have to find 5 or 6 different titles on your topic. You can find 1 or 2, see that they're in the same area, and go to that area and kind of browse the shelves. I particularly like that. So you can see here, QP 144, QP 144. Both of these are talking about the health benefits of chocolate, health and nutrition for chocolate. This looks like the section that I want to go to. If you're physically in the library, you can go look for it. They're little yellow slips of paper. They're floating around everywhere. You can find them at the reference desk, security, circulation. So you could go and find it personally, or you could request it. And this request button, which you'll find both in the catalog list and in the specific item record, request, lets you do a couple things. One, if the book is checked out and you want to get it when it comes back, you can hit request. And then the book, when it's returned, will immediately go to you. 2, if you don't want to run around the stacks looking for it, or if you do run around the stacks looking for it and you can't find it, you can hit request, and it will come down to the circulation desk that Freddie talked about earlier. So you can just come into the library and pick it up without having to get lost in our maze of a library. If it's checked out, say this book was checked out and the status had a due date here instead. The next step, if you really need it, you need it soon and not in 3 months when it's due back. The next step is to search Mobius. Libraries use really confusing acronyms a lot. Mobius basically is a partnership for Missouri libraries. So that MO at the beginning is for Missouri. This is not something I think that most people realize exists. They're like, search Mobius? I don't know what that means. Ignore it. And I know I did that as a student for my campus. But basically, Search Mobius is, again, like I said, looking at other libraries in Missouri. If we don't have a book for you, if it's either checked out or maybe the MU Libraries just doesn't have it, what we do is look at Mobius. And you can request books. This is free for you as staff, faculty, and students. This is a completely free service. You can look and see what library does have it and if you can get it. In this case, it looks like there are 3 libraries that have this title. So if our copy was gone, you could still get it from another library. If we hadn't bought that book, but you saw it on Amazon and you really wanted to read it, you could go into our catalog and say, okay, well, MU doesn't have it. I'm going to look at Mobius, and then you could get it through Mobius. Side note, fun story, I actually did this with the DVD Frozen because my niece wanted to see it and I didn't want to buy it. MU Libraries didn't have it, so I got it through Mobius. It was fun and we had a sleepover. So it doesn't just have to be for things that you stereotypically think of as academic. This is for any material you want that you want to find through the library. Okay. Going back to the home page again, we've talked about generally finding materials. We've talked about databases for articles, the catalog for books, and I want to go a little bit more specifically into those other libraries that we mentioned during the books discussion. There are a lot of them, as I mentioned. Some of them are in Ellis, like I said. Special Collections is in Ellis Library. There's going to be a workshop on that later in the semester. They have all sorts of really neat materials. Again, come to the workshop to learn more about that. For graduate students and faculty specifically, I think MU Digital Collections is a very underutilized aspect of what the library offers. We have 2 digital collections. One of them, MU Digital Library, is a collection of materials that MU has that we digitize so that anyone in the world can look at them and use them. MoSpace is the repository for materials that are created here at the University of Missouri. Again, for graduate students and faculty, this is definitely something to pay attention to. If you write a dissertation, if you write an article, if you go to a conference and you present a poster, and you want other people to be able to find that, we have a page that hosts that material where the URL links will be hosted indefinitely. We keep up with all of the turnover of web pages and technology, and that makes them findable. So an article, a dissertation, or a poster that is that is put into MoSpace is not hidden. It can be found through Google. It can be found through Google Scholar. If you're a faculty member, this means more people find your material and cite it. Your citation counts go up. That's a very good thing. If you are a graduate student, it means that you have a URL you can add to your resume when you're job hunting so that people can look at your poster. When you send in an application, you're effectively sending them a link to your conference presentation. It doesn't have to be a poster. It can be a slide, a set of slides. It can be a paper you've written, but it makes it findable online, and it makes it so that you can easily show it and distribute it and have other people find it and use it. I think it's a really good resource that Mizzou offers that is unfortunately not as well known. So, MoSpace, definitely worth getting to know. Also, if you're writing a dissertation and thesis, you wouldn't do both, that would be crazy. If you're writing one or the other, it's sometimes really helpful to see how other people have put theirs together, to get an idea about formatting, to get an idea about just kind of how it's constructed and what needs to be included. So there are examples there of people who have gotten their doctorate at MU successfully and then have put that information online for you to use. So definitely something to take a look at. Okay, class resources. I'm going through all the drop-down lists right now. So there's libraries, class resources. A couple to highlight here. One is cite sources. If you're unfamiliar with citation styles, APA, MLA, and others, this kind of gives you the background of what is a citation and how to cite. This is especially useful for international students because citation is significantly different from country to country. So this is kind of a guide of what is expected at MU in the United States in general. And it also has those citation management tools that we talked about earlier, Mendeley and Note and Zotero. So if you want to learn more about those, each of those links will take you into a guide specifically about those management tools. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. EndNote is, I think, typically used by the sciences more heavily than anything else, but it doesn't play nicely with others. You can't really share. So EndNote is going to be your citation management tool. You can't really do a group project. Mendeley is kind of the opposite of that. It's very good at sharing. It doesn't necessarily have the thousands of really, really specific scientific criteria citation tools, because it seems like each version of chemistry has its own way to cite things. But it is much better if you're trying to work as a group. I know that there are a lot of departments where the graduate students in a group will work together on papers. Mendeley might be the tool you want to use. So they each have benefits. You might want to look through all of them and figure out which one's best for you and then attend the session on that one. There's really no reason to do all three. So citation management tools. Other things under class resources, classes, workshops, and tours. If you're watching this presentation or if you're actually in it, you've probably found this page before. Maybe you didn't realize it because you might have found it through social media or another outlet. But this page is really useful for events that happen in the library. You can request instructions if you're a TA or a faculty member and you want a librarian to come to your class and teach. This is the page to do it. We have a calendar that shows what classes and workshops are happening. There's workshop descriptions. That's kind of the list of all the workshops that are happening in the library, so you can register for them if you're interested. So if you heard about that citation management tool and you thought, gee, I really like Mendeley, I want to learn about that, here's your registration link. There are recordings and tutorials, so any of the Fridays at the library workshops we've done previously are recorded and posted online. So if there's a Friday that you can't come at 1 o'clock because there's all sorts of things that happen Fridays at 1 o'clock, like work, you can always watch it later. Recorded events, the library does host a number of events. Sometimes they're music related, sometimes they're poetry related. It's just a place to get an idea of what the library does. Okay. Moving on down this gray line of drop-down list, services 4, there's a listing of the different types of users that come into the library. So you can figure out which category suits you. If you're faculty and staff, it's going to give you a lot of resources for your particular job in ways that the library might apply to you specifically. So if you're an instructor, ways that the library can support teaching. Some of that might deal with course reserves if you wanted to put articles on reserves so they're accessible for your students, if you wanted a librarian to come to your class and teach. This is just an example. That might be what you find under the instruction section, or the instructor section. So I'm clicking around an awful lot. Freddie clicked around an awful lot. There's so much material on this website, and I haven't even touched half of the links here. The trick to getting around the website isn't memorizing where everything is. It took me a while to realize that. It's this little search box up in the top right corner. The search box in the middle of the page doesn't search the page. It searches the resources. So it's going to be where we find articles, books, etc. The search box in the top is how you navigate the web page. So if you don't remember where a URL is and you're like, I feel like they said phone chargers were available at the library, you can just type in phone charger and you'll see the first link that comes up, phone chargers, equipment lending. You don't need to memorize the website. It is a very complicated website, and we've tried to make it better. It really is. If you'd seen it a couple years ago, you would have known some of these drop-down lists, instead of having like one list, had 3 lists. But there's still a lot of links, and I really, really, really want to stress the navigation is much easier if you search this box up at the top. If you don't remember where we clicked through to get to a specific tool or a specific page, just go up there. If there are questions that I didn't answer, if you're interested in publishing and you want to learn more about open access, random words, but you don't know what it means, you can type in open access and find a LibGuide, a page with information on that. So I really want to emphasize that the search at the top is useful. Another thing that's really neat is you'll notice these pictures scrolling by on the website. This leads into our blog. The library blog is a very, very useful page, library blog/news hub, if you want to be technical about it. It's going to keep you up to date of what's going on in the library, neat things that might have come up that are limited time, availability, like displays or certain databases that are having trials. If you wanted to learn more about the librarians themselves, you would do it through this page. I think it's pretty too, so I wanted to show it off because it's relatively new. There's a new thing that's at the library called Cycle of Success. This is a marketing term that was created by some journalism students last year that we worked with. We are really excited about it and hoping that we can input it into a lot more areas of the library. The main concept is that faculty, students, and the library are kind of all interconnected, and we're really here to help support everything on campus, and that we all work together, that the faculty support us, the students support us, and we support them. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, I did want to point out that it exists. There's a whole link to it that talks about some of our librarians, and we're hoping to add more things to that as well. So if you have ideas, we'd love to know. We also do have a social media presence. So if blogs aren't your favorite way of keeping up with the library, you can do so on Facebook or Twitter. We have a couple social media, they're user engagement librarians that also are very active on social media. And again, if you'd rather keep up with the library via social media, that's how you would go about following. And there's a newsletter. So all of these blog posts, if you don't want to keep checking back into the blog page, you can sign up for the newsletter, and you can sign up for it to be once a month, once a week, and the library will shoot you an email with some of the highlighted updates that we think would be most useful for you particularly. Okay. I think that is most of what I wanted to cover. Are there questions? Are there things that you were hoping to learn in this session that maybe haven't come out? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I do again just want to remember that the Contact Us link is available. Please always feel free to contact us if you didn't want to say you had a question now because maybe it doesn't come to your mind until an hour after the session's over. Please feel free to chat, email, text, whatever's most convenient for you. And thank you for coming today.